What's going on, everybody? My name is Rob and welcome back to Build It TV. Today I'm going to show you the best, quickest, easiest, simplest way of upgrading your headlights on this Datsun 280Z. But really on any old car it will work in the same fashion. So first thing, the reason we're upgrading it. Well, the headlights and the wiring system on here is all 42 years old, so it's definitely due for an upgrade. There's also an issue I've got with the original wiring that just isn't worth sorting out, to be honest, because I'd quite like to be able to see when I'm driving this car at night, and these old headlights ain't going to cut it. So the original wiring system for the headlights on this car work off a switchable earth. So what does that mean? Well, it means that when you switch the switch on the dash, there is lives going to both your dipped beam and your full beam. But your other switch on the other side controls which earth's out, so which one is it on. There's been a few videos I've seen online where people have sort of solved the problem by just earthing out one of them. That's no good, because then you're going to have both beams on at the same time and you're going to just put a whole lot of load on your really old wiring. It's going to end bad. Fuses are going to blow, stuff's going to set on fire. This way that I do it is going to upgrade all of the wiring system and just put in two simple relays for it. So here is what it looks like in a wiring diagram, if that's your thing. And all you've got is two relays coming straight from the battery, going straight to your lights, controlled by the switches on your dash. If you see, and I'll show you this in more detail a little bit later on, one of them is switched by a live and the other is switched by an earth, because that's just how it works on the dash wiring here. So what headlights am I going to use? Well, I'm going to use what's behind me here. This is the original headlight. It's a sealed beam unit. You can't change the bulb or anything. If you want to replace it, you've got to replace the whole thing. Comes in a metal casing and it's a glass front. I quite like the look of it, to be honest. It gives a very retro, cool look. This is Raybig's replacement of it, which is a much clearer, with their logo on the front, but also means that you can. It also means that you can just run a H4 bulb on the back and unplug and change the bulb when you need to. Also comes with this cool little rubber grommet, but the main thing is that it's the same size, which I think is 7-inch, so it should fit into the original casing. So that's the first thing we're going to do, is to try and get it to fit in the original casing and in the original tub, and then we're going to have to modify the tub so that we can get a bulb to it, because at the minute there's no hole at the back there and we don't have to be taking this all off every single time to be able to change a bulb. So these Raybrigs I actually bought as part of a deal ages ago. I think they were originally for MX-5, or they fit a few different things on there, and I nearly sold them a little while back, and I'm glad I didn't, because they just so happen to fit perfectly on the Datsun sizing. Because they're sort of a DIN-based light to replace these things, they've even got, if you see there's like little dips here, actually probably better here, there's a little like dip there for it to go into. Well, it has the corresponding notches on these, so you know exactly that you're going to get them the right way round. My one was a little bit bent, so I've just straightened all that stuff out and cleaned a bit up, and I'm going to build these up, put it together, and just see what we need to clearance on the backing plate. This is the Raybrig sat inside the original housing, and if you see the backing plate here, which is the sort of tub that sits in the wheel arch, so this bit would have then the wheel arch liner behind it. This just sort of sits and pivots in there, just metal against metal. You can see, you know, the way that you do it on there, and there's just two screws that hold it, one at the top here and one to the side. Now, the screws on mine were pretty badly beat up at the end. You can see the crosshead is all sort of rounded off there. It's pretty nasty. So went into my local hardware place, got some, the head was a bit thick, so I've just ground that down on the grinder, and that should fit nicely on our adjuster position. So I'm going to wangle those in there and we'll have a complete headlight bucket. And what that gives us is, well, we can't get to where we want to put the bulb. So nice and simple, I'm actually just going to cut the back side of this off to give us an open area. So then we can get our hands in there and change the bulb. Obviously, instead of having this to cover over the back, you're going to have the rubber grommet in there, but you will be able to get dirt into the sides here. I might end up 3D printing something along the lines to cover that over, but for the minute, we'll have it open. And because I do intend to find someone who makes the inner arches for these and put some back in, then hopefully it wouldn't get too grubby. Boop! Just like that, we've got our opening to be able to put a hand in and change our bulb. And there it is with our Raybrig light sat in there. And yeah, as you can see, it gives us plenty of room to take the cover off, check the bulb, do all what we need. So whatever that is, that's about the amount you need to take off. Okay, the new light is in place. I've got the adjusters in. Do I love the look of it? No, not really. I prefer the old classic-y style, but am I going to be able to see better? Yes. Does it look a load better than those LED ones that people put in? Yes, it does. One of the reasons I didn't go for HIDs or LED kits is because there are some laws that have come in, I think already, in the UK, which means that you can't retrofit that. So if the car didn't have it as standard, you cannot put it in. It will fail an MOT and therefore not be roadworthy. So bulbs is what we're going with, but it's a massive upgrade from what was stock. So now I've got to do this one, and I won't waste your time with that. So there we have it. The new one is installed. Next up is wiring, and I've made a holder for my relays here. This block here is going to be the live coming in, and then we're going to separate that out, so I've always got a decent live, constant live underneath the dash that I can go to. I've got some 14 gauge wire here that we're going to use for the lights themselves, and I've got some slightly thinner wire here that we're going to use for controlling the relays. So first thing to do is wire up the lights, and I've got these connectors here, just a basic H4 connector, and this is pinned out, so you've got the earth on one side, you've got the low beam here, and you've got the high beam on this one here. So we're going to use black for the earth, makes sense, red for our low beam, and this greeny blue for our high beam. Now the earth we could just put to any bit of ground anywhere around the inside of the headlight or down in the chassis here, but I'm actually going to run it all the way back to somewhere on here because I want to have a true ground running straight to the battery somewhere underneath the dash that I could just tap to and know that I've got a good source. Even if it's just for testing, it's good to have one there. So we're going to run all three wires out through here, and the good thing is the original hole, our connector fits through, so we haven't got to put a join in like the last one had. We can literally just have constant wire going all the way through. We're going to run where this line runs all the way along the front. We're going to join up with our other side here, and then in through the original grommet point at the back there. So we'll stick with this original wiring loom. Again, later on down the line, this wiring loom is going to be redone in entirety, but for the minute, let's just get it running and legal so we can get it MOT'd. So I've heat shrunk my bits in place and everything's soldered up. I've also just wrapped the loom a little bit so it's nice and easy to work with, and I'm going to plug it in, run the cables through, and just follow the existing wiring loom with some cable ties just to hold it in place temporarily. The wires are all cable tied into place and run all the way along, back down here and through the bulkhead. Obviously remember, all this is going to be covered over. For the minute we're just putting it in place to make sure we've got the right lengths. So two things to do next. One is to wire up this light, and we're going to run that through and join it up somewhere here. The other thing I've done is we've got the cables coming through here, so they're going to where the relays are. Remember, these ones only have to go as far as the relays because that's what's going to control them. All the new wiring's tucked away in this nice sleeving and runs all the way back through, and I've just got it sat there at the moment because we're going to give it a test. So we're literally just going to hook up to the batteries here and make sure that our bulbs come on as they should. So there's a dip beam. And there's a full beam. Nice. So next thing to do is pop the wiring through the bulkhead, and then we'll start hooking up to our plugs for the relay, which are these ones here. If you're not familiar with relays, they are effectively switches that are controlled by electronic current. So this is one of the simplest forms here, which is just a straight open closed relay with I've got a fuse in line with these that I'll probably swap out for smaller fuses once it's up and running. And basically what we've got is our switching current comes in and earths out on the other side, and when that is live it will close this, which will complete our bulb current. So this is our bulb, the power comes in, obviously there's no light on at the minute. When that's closed, the power gets to here, and then this will light up and earth. Now there's no reason why you can't do this the other way. You could have constant live going to here and this be the earth connection, and then when this closes it will earth out, and that's what we're going to do on one of them. On our full beam bulb, that's how it's going to work, and on our dip beam bulb it's going to work the other way. So this is our relay sat in place. This is going to be our live input on here, so we're going to have a big live wire going into here, and we're using two of the outputs, but it leaves me two other outputs that I can have down here if I ever need to tap into something. So with the relays, we've got our high beam here. I put a little H on it just so I can see, and a dip beam here with a D on it. And we've got our lives coming in on both reds, and the blue's going out the other side is the one that's going to our lives on the headlights. So this one goes to the green, which is the high beam, this one goes to the red, which is the dip beam. So that's our in and our out through one way of the relay. Now the other way that switches it, well, this one is your standard format. So we're going to earth one side of the relay to an earthing point that I'll put over here somewhere, and then we're going to run a red cable here up to the switch, and that's going to switch it on and off. The other side, as I mentioned, is the opposite. So we've got a live coming in, and that's going to be constantly feeding a live here, and only when this black one is earthed up at the switch, then that's when this relay will trip in, and that's what will kick on our high beam. So I'll show you that in a bit more detail when we're up at the switch, but for now I'm going to tidy this area up and then start running the cable up there. I'll just give the headlights a test. I've got a temp hookup with the live coming in at the top here, so that's feeding these lives, and we're earthed out on the body of the car, as is this here. I've just put that there temporarily. Like I said, I'm going to have an earth going to the back as well. So I've got these two here. So nice and simple. When I put live to this one, we should get dip beam, and when I put earth to this one, we should get full beam. Okay, so I know the switch is good because I've had this apart, cleaned it and put it all back together again and tested it. And basically what we've got on this side, this is the dipped beam, so our live out on here to make the relay work. First click up, sorry, that's off. First click up is our side lights that runs through these ones here and connects these together, so there's a live coming in and that goes out. And then second click is our dipped beam, which is the live coming in on one of these and going out on the other. So I just need to test that and see which one connects. So whichever one of these is the switch live, i.e. it comes on when the switch is fully switched on, is the one we're going to tap into. Now I'm not going to disconnect or chop it because I do want to be using this again, but luckily Datsun put some nice connections here for me, so I think I might be able to use those as the ones we use for the switch. And over here on the other side, so this one here is the switch for the dipped to high beam, and if you see the middle one is an earth here, and then when you pull it, it connects these two, and then it connects these two. So one of these is earthing out, on the original casing, one of these was earthing out the dip beam, and one of these was earthing out the high beam. We're going to find the one that was earthing out the high beam and connect our earth to that. Side lights, dipped beam, main beam. That is us all wired up. So I've got the earth connected to this red and white one here, which is tripped by pulling this handle. And I've got the red one, I've got my live going into this red one here, which is switched by the second click on there. You can sort of hear the relay clicking as well. And that is everything you need to rewire the headlights. Now, the only thing that you could tweak is that this is now set so the dipped and the main beam come on at the same time. Not very an issue on here because we're using all new wiring. There's no high voltage going through old wiring. But if you were going to still be using the old wiring, I'd probably have it set so that the earth for the dip beam relay also hooks up to the other connection on here, and so that when you flick this over, it will unearth that relay and turn off the dip beam bulb when you've got the full beams running. But other than that, that is our installed connection there. Obviously this will all be tidied up when the car gets tidied up. This is everything underneath the dash, which, well, it kind of looked that grubby beforehand, so we just added 2 new wires to it. And this is our headlights that now work. We give out a much better beam than they ever did before. Well, that's it for today's episode, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and if it helped you out, then please hit the like button down bottom and think about subscribing for some more stuff that we're going to be doing on this old classic car. I'm thinking about doing more stuff on the RB180 build coming up next, so if you're interested in that, then stay tuned and I'll see you soon. Catch you later.